Welcome to Health Issues. I'm your host, Chris Sylvain, and I'm always excited about nutrition, but I am totally excited today because my favorite physician, who is truly an expert in the area of medicine and nutrition, we have Dr. Timothy Harlan. Welcome, Doctor. How are you?
It is great to be here.
Oh, always excited, believe me, and you're no stranger to health issues. But just this concept, before we even get started, just this concept of nutrition. Give us a kind of a global view of where we're at right now in the concept, in the idea of nutrition and eating and food and health and medicine.
Wow, that's one of the best interview questions I've ever had. I'm going to tell you straight up. The last 40 years have been a problem, I think, for Americans because they've been told, do this, don't do that. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Some of that misinformation 20 years ago, 15 years ago, was because we didn't have the best quality research. Okay? Right. Some of that misinformation is because of silly fad diets like Atkins diet and South Beach and all. I mean, these are just kooky. Yeah. And they're what you and I as professionals call pseudoscience. Right. They're made up. You know, the guys who, Dr. Atkins just made that up. He made it up on the subway. This is a true story. Made it up on the subway one day on the way to work. Okay. He said it, and so a lot of times in medicine, people will do that. They'll say, well, it stands to reason, or I think it should be this way, or, well, that's not how we do medicine. It's not how we do research, especially in diet and nutrition. Right. The last 15 years have really in some ways been the golden age of nutrition research. We have a lot of very good quality, excellent, very well designed research studies with lots of people. The more people you study in a group when you're doing this kind of research, the better you can say this is a definitive conclusion. Right. We have more of that good quality nutrition research in the last 15 years than probably the last 150 years. So where we stand and where we've come to is, in my opinion, and I think that most people will agree with this, most physicians, dietitians will agree, that it's not about what people think of about food, and that's macronutrients. It's not about carbohydrates. It's not about protein. It's not about fat. Those are important things. They're important to know about, but it's about food. And it's about ingredients. And so a lot of the research that's going on now is to try and get people back to those ingredients and how to use them best.
Okay. Question then. Your background places you, I don't know anybody that has the background. I mean, you're a chef, in the business world, restaurant, author, I mean, a physician, really managing, clinic, but this background gives you this perspective, not counting Dr. Gourmet, the newsletter, drgourmet.com, you got to check it out, and so you have a perspective that's broad. How do you duplicate that for the average physician that's walking out there now that's treating patients, with diabetes and so forth? I mean,
well, I think we're working on some of that at Tulane right now. We have started some very innovative nutrition curriculum for the students. We have just signed an agreement with Johnson Wales University, the College of Culinary Education. This is the premier degree-granting culinary school maybe in the world, certainly in America. Wow. Dean Carl Guggenmoss has been working with us, and we're working with their curriculum department. And at the same time, our basic scientists, the folks who teach our first and second year medical students, biochemistry, physiology, all those things they've got to have, and our clinicians are working together to try and weave nutrition into the curriculum. Pardon me. I'll give you an example. So we did this pilot that we see replicating last week. The first hour was a kind of standard biochemistry lecture, things that doctors got to have, what we call fat metabolism. When you eat something, that has fat in it, how does your body circulate that, cholesterol, et cetera. Well, while David Franklin was doing this, he talked about those practical ingredients. So when he says monounsaturated fats, which I say to patients all the time, monounsaturated, but he also said olive oil, avocados, canola oil. Translation. So how do you sort of applied biochemistry? Okay? So that was his first hour lecture. Then we had an hour cooking demonstration by chefs from Johnson Wales University. And these were recipes that use those same biochemistry principles, use those same ingredients. Okay, shrimp, olive oil, a really great salad dressing made with flaxseed oil. Very simple recipes that the students could go home and do that night themselves. But also that kind of gives them the translation of, okay, here's the biochemistry, here's the applied biochemistry, here's the recipe. Then in the third hour, we did what are called team-based learning, where the students get together in a room and they're in groups of 6. This is one of the coolest ways to learn these days. They're in groups of 6 and they're given case studies. Patient comes in, you know, here's their weight, you know, they're diabetic, they have high blood pressure. What do you do? You know, and they come to that decision, which we often do, as you know. A lot of times, you know, I'm calling you up, I'm calling the pharmacist up on the phone and saying, hey, you know, what about Miss So-and-so, you know, is she getting her meds? We're always conferring with each other. So this kind of, from the very first year, helps that team-based approach to medicine. And those 2 cases that they reviewed, again, dovetailed back to the cooking piece, the recipe piece, the quality of the ingredients, and then all the way back to the biochemistry. Wasn't perfect. It was our first time at it, but I think the students liked it. I think the professors loved it, because this is a way, it's really interesting, this is a way to marry the basic sciences with the clinical sciences much earlier in medical education. And the cool part is that nutrition and food, which is so important to all of us and our culture, becomes the touchstone for doing that.
Wow, and I could see the patient getting excited because he's saying, hey, now somebody can talk to me in a language that I can understand.
Well, that's certainly our hope. You know, I've got, there's great research out there that says when we physicians walk the walk, that we're more likely to talk the talk, and our patients are more likely to listen to us. And I think a lot of docs out there, they're walking the walk. I really do. I mean, you know, when you look at what happened, say, in the 1960s with smoking. So in early 1960, you know, about 70% of physicians still smoked. I mean, everybody smoked. You know, you watch Mad Men on TV, you know, that's just what you did.
That's right.
And by, you know, in the mid-60s, American Medical Association, physicians, the government, physicians decided as a group, we're going to stop smoking. We're going to set the example. And they did. And they talked to their patients about it. And smoking went from about 70% in 1960 all the way down to about 4% in 1978. I mean, a dramatic reduction. We set the stage for that. And I think that what we'd like to do here at Tulane is try and create that same environment where our medical students, our physicians, who really are already walking the walk, help them learn to talk the talk so their patients can hear that and we can have that same sort of change.
As opposed to the direction, hey, you just do what I say, and so now it creates a community, a culture where you can watch me do this, and a whole different way of learning.
And we can have a better dialogue about it.
Unbelievable. I mean, it really, paradigm shift in the way we think and the way we operate. But let's deal with this food issue. All of this research now, these foods are as powerful as drugs, aren't they?
I think so. I think so. So there's the 2 diets that have been the most studied, the 2 ways of eating, are a diet plan that was developed by the National Institute of Health called the DASH diet. There's another diet that you probably heard of called Mediterranean style diet, very well researched. Mediterranean style diet is, you know, basically conforms to the diet of folks around the Mediterranean Sea. So Spain, France, Italy, Greece, North Africa. What does that diet look like? The difference between those 2 diets, and both of those are very similar. So when you look at the protein, fats, macronutrients, everything that goes into that, the amount of sodium, they're actually very similar, okay? I think the difference is that DASH diet's a little bit more research-oriented, so it's a little more oriented towards those macronutrients.
Okay.
Cool thing about Mediterranean-style diet is it's oriented towards ingredients. And that's what, you know, I do at drgourmet.com. It's about ingredients.
Right.
It's about that diet plan and how can you make that work for yourself. How can you make it work for yourself? So those 9 basic elements of the Mediterranean diet, they're real easy. And the cool thing is they're kind of common sense. They're what you know already. But, and again, people can go to drgourmet.com and there's a lot more explanation there of the Mediterranean diet. But there are more fruits and nuts. That's easy. More veggies. That's pretty easy. More whole grains. You know, we were talking a minute ago before we went on air about carbohydrates. You know, I was saying it's not about low carb. Carbohydrates are okay. It's the quality of the carbs. Okay? So whole grains like whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, etc. The quality oils. It's not so much about olive oil. People think, oh, Mediterranean diet, olive oil. It's more good oils like olive oil, avocados, canola oil, and less of the not so good. Butter, lard, bacon, that sort of thing. It's not that butter's bad. You just want to bring that more of this, less of that. Less meat and lean meat, more fish. The big one is dairy. We probably drink too much milk, but cultured dairy like yogurts and cheeses, they're pretty good. And legumes. Legumes are one of my favorites. Beans, peas.
New Orleans.
New Orleans, exactly. And then the last is alcohol. The last of the 9 is alcohol. Now, alcohol is kind of a funny thing. There's what we call a therapeutic window. You know, you actually are probably a little healthier if you drink a little bit of alcohol, but too much, very bad for you.
Got it.
For men, that's an average of maybe about no more than 2 drinks per day. Absolutely no more. And no more than 1 drink a day for women, on average. Now, that doesn't mean you can take all 14 drinks and drink them on Saturday night, save them up. We know that's bad for you. So it's, you know, and I don't tell my patients if you don't drink alcohol and you don't want to start drinking, don't. But it is one of those things that can be protective. When you look at those 9 Mediterranean diet, all pretty common sense. They're all pretty common sense. So if you just change 2 of those, just 2. So let's say legumes, again. And veggies. You eat more veggies, extra 2 servings of veggies per day, and you eat legumes maybe 3 or 4 times a week where you weren't as much before. You'll reduce your risk of dying. This is dying from heart disease and cancer. See, that's the cool thing about these Mediterranean diet studies. They don't just focus on heart attack and stroke, which is what we usually think of in diet, but also cancer. You'll reduce your risk, 2. That's all you got to do, increase 2 by 25%.
Wow.
Okay, so if I said to you, have a peanut butter sandwich every day, peanuts or legumes, have a peanut butter sandwich every day on whole grain bread, for lunch, instead of going and having fried chicken, instead of stopping at the sub shop, you know, instead of going to the fast food joint, to the burger joint, to have yourself a PB&J on whole wheat bread, you'll reduce your risk of dying by 25%.
Wow.
That's pretty dramatic.
Major.
Now, can I get that sort of thing out of pills? Yeah. Yeah. But when you look at the research, not just on Mediterranean diet, when people are already on pills, maybe they already have high blood pressure, when they improve their diet, they reduce their risk that much more.
Wow.
Okay? So you know, even if you already have high blood pressure or cholesterol problems and you're already on medication, you can still make a dramatic impact. And oftentimes, I have patients I take off of medication every single week because they change their diet, they lose weight. It's pretty simple.
So people are successful. It's not that nobody can't do it. People are actually successful. They're making it happen. They're making the changes. You're taking them off the diabetes medication. You take them off the high blood pressure pills. And
Every week, and I think other doctors, folks who go see the dietitian, this is absolutely possible. There's a great piece of research about Mediterranean diet that came out in 2009. It was an Italian study where they looked at Mediterranean style diet, and they took 200 people who were new onset diabetics. Okay. So these are patients who had just been diagnosed with diabetes. They didn't need insulin; they needed pills. Okay. And they taught them two different diets: Mediterranean style diet and DASH diet. And DASH diet's good. Right. Okay. But with Mediterranean, and the only end point, as we say, the only end point of the study was: did the patient have to take medication or not? Wow. That's it. That was the only measure of success or failure.
Good stuff.
Okay.
All right.
And at the end of 4 years, okay, about 70% of the people in this DASH diet study needed medication. Well, that means that just on that diet alone, 30% of people were able to avoid medication. Okay. I think that's pretty powerful.
That's good.
I think that's pretty powerful.
That's good.
Only 46% of the people in Mediterranean diet group needed medication. Wow. That's a lot. That's 26% different. Fantastic. Okay, so that means that you, just by changing your diet, when you're diagnosed with diabetes, you have about a 50%, over a 50% chance that you're going to avoid having to take medication.
Unbelievable. I mean, for people that may not understand the DASH diet, the DASH diet leads them in a certain direction, but it deals so much in serving sizes.
Exactly.
Complex.
Right. I do think DASH diet can be more complex. The cool thing about the Mediterranean diet is it's about food. And you said it a minute ago. So we were talking about legumes, and you said New Orleans. Yeah. Well, there's no city in America, no city probably in the Western Hemisphere, that is more Mediterranean. Who has owned us? So let's see, the French have owned us, Mediterranean diet. Right. The Spanish have owned us, Mediterranean diet. Right. There's this big Italian influence back in the 19th century. You know, a big influx of Italians to come work in the rice fields. Right. African Americans, that North African influence, that's Mediterranean. So what is Mediterranean diet? Red beans and rice, it's Mediterranean diet. Gumbo's Mediterranean diet. I think the challenge that's occurred in New Orleans and in Louisiana is after World War II, recipes that had been great quality Mediterranean style recipes. So what's the Holy Trinity? The Holy Trinity, onions, peppers, celery. The Holy Trinity is Spanish. Making a roux is French. Wow. All of these things. But, people didn't cook with as much fat. People didn't deep fry. Okay. And it's because folks couldn't afford it. So Cajun and Creole food, they couldn't afford that fat. They couldn't, and they used some. All right. But every single patient that I've had, I can't think of an exception, because I have a lot of elderly women come into my practice, 80 years old, maybe 85. Right. One of my very first questions, because I'm curious, one of my very first questions is, how do you make a gumbo? Okay. And they don't start a gumbo by throwing a big glop of fat in a pan. Okay. And then melting it and putting the flour in and browning the flour. Brown the flour first. And so after World War II, a lot of recipes, a lot of great quality American recipes got corrupted. Betty Crocker, Joy of Cooking, all of these, Fannie Farmer, all of these companies, cookbooks, they were trying to make it easy for folks. All right. Trying to make recipes easier, but what happened was they added more fat, they added more salt, more refined flours, more white flour, etc. When really isn't how the recipes are in their original state. That's right. Okay. That's right. Okay. Deal. My kids. Okay. I got these kids. I always call them. How old are your kids? I mean, they really range. They go from 13 to 30-something. Shonda's 30. She'll shoot me 34 or whatever. I'm not sure you can say 34 is a kid, but that's okay. But the little 13, 15, and 17. All right. Okay. Teenagers at home. Teenagers. All right.
my wife and I, we had this big argument, throughout, for years.
You're not going to put me in the middle here.
You're in the middle. You're already in the middle. You're in the middle. Okay, this is the deal. Their taste buds changed. So right before coming to the show, my daughter had cookies. And I said, no cookies. And I'm like, look, we have this whole wheat spaghetti here, but she wanted cookies. The taste buds have changed. How do we move the taste buds back?
Well, that's a great question. There's fantastic research about snacking. Okay, so cookies are snacks.
Yeah,
they're treats.
All right.
They're not everyday things.
Okay.
First of all,
yeah.
And they've done research where they have put chocolate in front of folks and an apple.
Yeah.
Okay, and pretty complex little research, but the end of it was that folks. And what they did is they had people talk about their emotions and whether they were filled up and satisfied and whether they liked the chocolate, did they like the apple, et cetera.
Yeah.
And at the end of the research, what they showed was that at 0 minutes, people felt a little bit, not a lot, a little bit more satisfied when they ate the chocolate rather than the apple. Okay?
All right.
At 5 minutes, they actually felt more satisfied, more filled up, more satisfied from the apple. Again at 10, 20, and 30. And actually their satisfaction grew.
Okay.
At 0 minutes, they felt less guilty having the apple.
All right.
But their guilt over that 30 minutes at eating the chocolate grew.
Okay.
And I think my answer to you is that we know that folks are either sweet snackers, they like sweet things,
right,
or they're salty, savory snackers. They like one or the other.
Right.
And almost everybody, if they just stop and think about it, will be just as satisfied with a really fantastic apple, orange, banana, pear.
You got it.
For those sweet snackers.
Got it.
Part of it's planning.
All right.
So do you have apples in your house? Or do you have cookies in your house?
Both.
Then all you want in your house is apples.
I told my wife that.
That's what you want. You don't want cookies in that. Cookies are treats.
You got it.
Cookies are treats. It's like coffee. Coffee's great for you.
Okay.
We know coffee is fantastic.
Okay.
Really good for you. In one study, they showed women who drank 6 cups of coffee a day had about a 38% less risk of getting diabetes. And we know this because coffee has a lot of great quality antioxidants in it.
Yeah.
Tea's just as good, probably, or pretty close. But you go to Starbucks or PJ's and you get that coffee with the stuff in it and whipped cream and shots of this and shots. That's not coffee. That's dessert.
Got it.
So I think that you have to stop thinking about cookies as snacks, coffee as snacks. Snacks are something you want. You want to make them part of your life. You want to make them as healthy as possible. Are you a sweet snacker? Are you a salty, savory snacker? Get that stuff in the house. The other stuff becomes treats. And there's nothing wrong with treats.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with treats.
Nothing wrong with it. That's fine. So the thing, taste buds, because of this issue, we have to actually block them away from our view. We have to.
There's really great research about that. When there's this fella who does research at Cornell University. His name's Brian Wansink, W-A-N-S-I-N-K. Fantastic book called Mindless Eating. A fantastic book. I quote some of it in my new book, Just Tell Me What to Eat.
Right.
A lot of his research. So they've done research where, for instance, they put Hershey's Kisses in either a clear candy dish or a white candy dish.
Okay.
And they put it either close to a secretary or across the room.
Okay.
Where they couldn't see it. And the people who had the candy dish that was clear, sitting on their desk, right in front of them, ate more candy. And not only did they eat more candy, but the interesting thing is that their perception of how much candy they had eaten was way off. They thought they had eaten a lot less. Here's the interesting thing. The white dish across the room, they ate a lot less, about half as much, and their perception was they had eaten a lot more.
This brain.
Some of our relationships with food is pretty funny. I think, you know, talking about healthy food is always a challenge for me because people have this misperception. If I say it's going to be healthy, you think, oh, it's not going to taste good. Right. So, you know, there's a great research study where they put beef stroganoff in front of folks. 2 dishes of beef stroganoff. A traditional beef stroganoff and a healthy beef stroganoff. So they put beef stroganoff in front of folks and they say, tell us which one you like better. They didn't tell them which was which. They said one of these is healthy, one of them is not. About 85% of the time, people chose the healthy version as tasting better. Wow. Until you tell them first. When you tell folks, here's a plate of healthy beef stroganoff and here's a plate of traditional beef stroganoff, which do you think tastes better? Tables are turned. About 85% of the time they think that the traditional tastes better. So the minute I say to you, it's going to be healthy, you turn off. You think it can't taste good. So my argument, and one of the things that we're going to work with Johnson & Wales on is just quit cooking it that way. Quit saying it's healthy. Just make great food that happens to be healthy. And that, again, that's what Dr. Gourmet does. You know, we got the fettuccine Alfredo there on the website. We got tacos, tuna noodle casserole, red beans and rice, shrimp etouffee. You know, we've got all those recipes. They're healthy, but I'm going to tell you, my wife has the best palate. She's a great taster. If it doesn't taste great, if it doesn't pass Morgan, it doesn't get on the website.
No way.
And so it's pretty easy to do.
Hey, look, drgourmet.com. This is Dr. Gourmet himself, a famous all-around, believe me, author. We're excited about you, Dr. Timothy Harlan. The information that he has, just check out the website. This is Chris Sylvain, healthissues2010.org, our website. You'll be able to reach his website from there. But eat well, eat healthy. As Dr. Harlan said, keep that stuff away, out of sight, out of mind. Do what you have to do. It's a new year, 2012. Be your absolute best. You have to fight as hard as you can. Thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate you. Awesome.